glad that you decided to come to another session. Today's a really important one because we're talking about eating and overeating and how do we really start to manage what we put in our mouth. Well, the other day I went to the dermatologist and I was sitting in the examining chair, and as I was sitting there I was looking at it and I couldn't put an elbow on this armrest and an elbow on this armrest. It was too far apart. This seat had to be at least 48 inches wide. And when the doctor came in, I inquired and I said, "Do you have patients that fit snugly into this chair?" And they're like, yep, sure do. And the chair was rated for 500 pounds. So the point where I'm getting at is that, I believe that we all need to eat in some type of moderation. And, what I'm really want to talk about is, dessert. And, typically the way I feel about it is that if I haven't had it in 180 days, then I think that that's eating it in moderation. So an example would be candy bar. I haven't had one in 180 days. Well, let's splurge. I feel like having a candy bar. Well, that makes perfect sense. On the other side of the coin, if I'm having a candy bar 2 and 3 times a day, that isn't in moderation. So where I'm really going with that is that I don't want you to create a chart that has 180 items that are absolutely delicious, where they sit on your tongue and when you eat them you have this wonderful orgasmic emotional experience. No, you're cheating yourself. That's not moderation. Think about it like this, that if you have a frozen dessert is frozen. Doesn't matter if it's gelate, doesn't matter if it happens to be a frozen yogurt, doesn't happen to be a sorbet, it doesn't any type of frozen dessert, frozen tiramisu. Then you have a cream like a tiramisu or a creme brulee. Or these are all pretty much the same thing. So if you have 180 of those, you're not really paying attention to moderation. You're eating what you want to eat, and it's going to show up on your waistline, and it's also going to show up in your cholesterol and some of your other tests, and that's not what we're talking about. So come on, we're all adults here, and we know what the rules are. The rules are just 2 things. Eat in moderation, so that's quantity. So if we're eating 20 pounds of food and we weigh 200 pounds, that's still a little bit of an excess, especially if there's a lot of sugar in it. And if we need to be eating 3 meals a day, 5 meals a day, it doesn't really matter to me. But it's what you eat. What is the quality of food? Well, one of the things that really, really irritates me is that in today's American society, an apple costs more than junk food. And when I talk about junk food, that's processed food that comes in a bag. And it is cheaper to eat poorly than it is to eat healthy. And that shouldn't be the same thing. So, the real issue is that in school we learned about this wonderful thing called a complicated food pyramid. And I can't even tell you how it works. And I consider myself to be fairly sharp. So we also took, gathered information from our parents, our friends, and, we saw grandma smoking and drinking and eating everything underneath the sun, and she outlives everyone. So then you have the Uncle Buster, who happens to die at 30 from a massive heart attack because he was overweight and eating junk food and had clogged arteries. Well, that's not what we need to be doing. If you're looking on social media snapshots of food, man, some of it looks incredible. And it looks very healthy. But why don't we develop our own recipes? I'm a certain kind of cook, Italian, Chinese, Asian, Um, you know, barbecue, country, but I'm do moderation. So in the ingredients is what I'm talking about. And again, it is very expensive to eat right. And we need to be watching what we eat. And when we talk about watching what we eat, how do you shop in a grocery store? It is common knowledge that everything that is fresh, everything that is healthy is on the perimeter of the grocery store. Everything that's processed, everything that will give you high blood pressure, has a lot of salt, has a lot of other ingredients and chemicals in it, is on the interior of the grocery store. So, we need to understand what we're putting in our mouths. Going back to kind of refresh the two rules, it's quantity and quality. If you're eating a lot of processed food, that is low quality. You're eating fresh foods, that's high quality. If you know the ingredients, that's high quality. If you're eating raw foods and raw vegetables, that's high quality. If you're eating a lot of vegetables that are fresh, that are cooked right, that is high quality. If you're eating a lot of vegetables that have a lot of fat in them, that's not a good idea. So when we talk about eating, I traveled for a number of years, and I learned real quick that if I wanted to be overweight, sluggish, not be able to perform correctly, not be able to process my thoughts, and feel terrible, then what I should do is eat out 5 days a week and eat everything on my plate. And after a while, I made the decision, and I gave myself permission, because this was one of those weird things that I didn't have to finish what was on my plate. The culture that I grew up in is you had to eat what was on your plate. And that is just BS. That will create an eating disorder faster than anything I know. Another thing that creates an eating disorder is eating because of our emotions, or eating through our emotions. Eating in front of the TV. You just can't do that. We need to be able to know when to stop. So we need to change our mindset. Do we get on a diet? Well, more exercise and reduce the quantity. I mean, if your plate is this big and it has a mound on it like this, and it's not salad, yeah, you got a problem, especially if you consume the whole thing. I have been at a Mexican restaurant just recently, and the people said, "Look at all this food. I can't eat it." And then they're at the very end, the plate is empty. Well, they stand up, they bump their belly on the table, and they waddle out. Look, if the way I eat, and I'm suggesting that we start to formulate a new plan, cut down on the volume, because we don't need to eat 4 pounds of something on every meal. Our body doesn't function like that. So we can cut down. The next thing is to eat only good food. When I talk about good food, I'm talking about stuff that tastes good. It has a good texture. It feels good in your mouth. It has a different texture and crunch, and it really is an exciting meal. If you're just shoveling it in and you don't even know what it is or tastes like, that is not a good meal. And then we need to be able to eat for nourishment. And nourishment is one of those weird things, because 4 ounces of meat, fish, chicken, turkey, red meat, pork, those is all you need. And then on the other side, you need fiber, good fiber, lots of fiber, cardboard kind of fiber. And I'm struggling with that. But understand that that's the direction, because the vegetables are fibrous and they help you, and they have lots of vitamins and nutrients. So if your BMI, body mass index, is too high, then we need to reduce the amount of consumption. Quantity first, quality, and go from there. So if you want to comment and you want to know what the BMI, I've got a link, I can send it to you, so go ahead and comment. If you want more detail, go to Mach 1 on the Facebook group, and I'll be glad to show you the material and the events that we have in that particular group. And we need to start making good decisions about the food that we eat. And we need to give ourselves permission not to have to eat everything on the plate. And then the next thing is think about just moderation in itself. Go ahead, write down the comments. I look forward to talking to you. You have a great day.